Once we are loaded up, we can press G and we get all the resolution settings. By default, the standalone game window is 1280 by 720. So if you have this option here, it will highlight for you. Other than that, we can change it to whatever we like. And that's pretty much it. Hey there, I'm your host Lasoe, and in today's video, I will show you how to create a resolution settings menu. So with that said, let's begin. Let's start by going to the content drawer, and over here we want to create a new folder called UI. And inside we want to open this up and create a widget called WB for widget blueprint underscore settings menu, resolution menu, whichever you like. And let's save that. Now let's go back into the content, go into your third person, inputs, actions, and we want to create a new input action in order to toggle the menu opening. So we'll call it IA for input action underscore toggle menu. Let's save that. Now we need to assign a key. So we'll go to the IMC underscore default. In order to do so, click on your mappings, hit the plus, and we'll select toggle menu. Now, whichever key you like, I typically go for G. So let's save and exit. Now, in order for this to toggle, we need to create a player controller. So let's right click and create a blueprint. No, let's go to blueprint class, player controller, BP underscore PC for player controller underscore main. Let's open that up. Inside here, let's go to the event graph, and we want to create a new function called toggle settings menu. Now in here, we want to drag out and do create widget like so. And this widget will be the widget we just made. So menu, settings menu. Let's promote it to a variable called WB for widget blueprint underscore settings menu. And just like so, we want to drag out and add it to our viewport. Now, in order for this to happen, we first want to get our variable. So either drag it out, get that, or control and drag. So we want to get our widget variable, right click, convert to a validated get. And we want to check basically if this exists. So if the widget is already created, it's going to exist. But if it's not, we want to create it. So if it is valid, we'll drag out from the blueprint and do remove from parent, which will remove it from our viewport. Now, if it's not valid, it doesn't exist, so we want to create it. And also, we want to update the variable so that it is equal to nothing once we close the widget. So again, drag out, and this time we do a set. And we set it to be blank, empty. Now, the next thing we want is for our mouse to show up on the screen. So let's go to functions, create a show mouse function. We'll create another one called hide mouse function. Let's open up the we want show mouse. And in here, we want to get the player controller like so. We want to do a set show mouse cursor. Take this window to be true because we want to display the mouse on our screens. And last thing we'll do is set input. Now, I typically go for game and UI. So that means you still can move around while your UI is open. Let's just double click and press Q to align everything. Now the widget in focus, you can do your settings menu. You could do a validated get, plug it in if you want, but we'll leave it empty. For our hide mouse, we want to get the player controller and we want to check if it is valid. Now we're doing this because typically when you close your game, it will give you an error that this doesn't exist. So to mitigate that, we get that. Next, we'll do set show mouse cursor to be empty because we're removing it. And lastly, we want to set the input mode. So set input game only. And that's us done. Now the only thing left to do is to plug all of this into our toggle settings. So let's compile, save everything, just in case we crash. Toggle settings. when we're removing it, we want to hide the mouse. And when we're creating it, we want to show the mouse, just like so. Now we just need to call this function somewhere. So let's compile and save. And we'll delete everything, right click, and we'll call our input action that we made earlier. So toggle menu. And let's click the drop down on started. We'll do toggle settings menu like so. And compile and save. And let's go and test this. One more thing before we test this is we need to assign the player controller to the player. Now this can be found in the world settings. Now if you don't see this window, don't worry, go to settings and click world settings. Here you will find your game mode and we can click on selected game mode. We have our third person character and so on. We're interested in the player controller class. Click on it and select the controller you made. So BP_PC_main for me. Just save it and hit play. Now when we press the G key, we should get our mouse on the screen. No UI just yet. And when we press G again, it disappears. Amazing. Next, let's go ahead and make the button for the menu. So let's go to the content drawer, back to content, UI, create a new widget blueprint. And this will be our WB_button. And let's open this up. Inside on the designer, we want to grab a simple button. And we can click on this, rename it to just button. And let's make the background color invisible. So we want to grab text. For this text, we want this to be variable because we want to edit it. And we'll call it txt_text or default text, whichever you like. And that's fine for now. Let's open up the event graph. And inside here, we want to create a function called setTextColor. So because we made the text variable, it's an option in here. We'll do set color and opacity. We want the first one at the top. And from the in color and opacity, we'll do a make slate color and connect a specific color in here. That's one function down. Let's compile and save. For our next function, we'll go ahead and call this setTextSettings. Now in here, we can change the font and all that good stuff, but all we're interested in is setting the text. So we'll do setText. So now if you do want to change the font, the style, all that, we'll do setFont. And you could break this window open. So do a make, and then you get all these variables, which you can promote them. And if you make them instance editable, there'll be a setting to change. So for this right now, we want to connect the text in here, and you'll see what I mean in a second. Let's compile and save. Back on the event graph on preconstruct. So preconstruct happens before the widget's created. And this can be seen in the designer in real time. So here, what we want to do is we'll do setTextSettings. And if I make this window into a variable, say text, maybe default text. And if we make it instance editable, it now becomes an option in our button to change. So right now we have text and we can say text here. But if I compile, it's gonna go blank because our text doesn't actually have anything inside. So we'll type text here, like so. Compile, save that. And if we were to open up our settings menu, and let's say we'll do a canvas panel, like so, then we want a vertical box, perhaps a border first. So while holding down Control and Shift on the anchors tab, we can select anything in here and it'll snap. So middle snap. For the size, totally up to you. I'll do 500 to 700, like so. Brush color will make all the way black, and we'll do like 0.6 on the opacity. So now, just to test this quickly, if I play, press G, we get this. Back inside of our widget, we want to go ahead and search for a vertical box, or rather a scroll box would be much better. So let's grab a scroll box, put it into your border, and that means if the buttons go past whatever your size is, you can just scroll down. For the scroll box, we'll do opacity or padding to 0. And inside the scroll box, we can go ahead and then add all of our buttons. So as many resolution buttons as you want. You can go ahead and add 3 for testing, like so, and click on all of them. And we can do padding 10 to space them out. And now we have the text here. And per button, we can actually change the text. So for example, we'd have our 1920 by 1080 option. Oops, extra X. Then we could have our, let's see, I'll make something up, 1400 by 800. I don't know how that's gonna look. And we'll have perhaps 1280 by 720, like so. And we can actually name these buttons. So let's do 1920 by 1080 button. Just like so, let's compile and save. Now this won't work just yet. We need to head back into our button widget. Next, we'll go ahead and create a function called update button status. And in here, we want to click on the inputs, create a new parameter. This will be a Boolean for true or false. And we'll ask it is active. If that's the case, we want to grab our set text color. And for the specified color here, we want to do a select color like so. Plug your Boolean in here. And if it's active, we can give it like a yellowish color, something like that. And if it's not active, we'll make it gray by default, something like this. And press OK. Maybe even lighter a little bit. And once you're done, compile and save. Now, with all of that done, we want to go back into the event graph and we want to update the button at the start. So is active. Let's also drag it out and do promote variable is active, and we'll make it instance editable. Once again, making it instance editable will allow us to change it in real time in the designer. So compile, save, back in your settings menu, you can see there gray. We have is active. If you press it, boom, changes color to being active. Now by default, this will be set by itself because the system will check which resolution we're on. So again, back inside the button, we're not done just yet. Next, we'll go ahead and create the button animations. So we'll go into our button and do on clicked first. So when a button is clicked, we want a event dispatcher to let us know it has been clicked. And we'll call it on button clicked. And we want to call it. Now, because we're doing this, just to show you again, compile and save that in our settings menu. Now our buttons in the event graph will have the option on button clicked, and we can have whatever functionality we want there. So back inside the button, click on it again. We have unpressed, unreleased, and so on. We want unhovered and we want on unhovered, just like so. So unhovered, we want to set the button status, or rather update it with our isActive variable. Just plug it in there, and we'll do play animation, which we don't have just yet, but we will make it. And at the end, we can do a play sound to D. For unhovered, we want to update our button status like we did. So then we want to grab a branch and check if our button was pressed, for example. So let's do promote variable was pressed, like so. And if true, we do set, and we'll do set to false. And if false, we'll just play our animation. Now this time we'll play it in reverse, like so. Next, we'll go ahead and click on the button again, and we have the unpressed and released options. So unpressed and unreleased. So in here, unpressed, we'll do set was pressed to be true. Then we'll do a play animation again. So we'll have two animations for hovering and for pressing. This is forward, and the other one will just be play animation, and bring it here as well to be reversed. And that's pretty much it. We just got to make those animations. So back into this designer we go. And if you hover over the window, or rather click, go to animations, and we get this beautiful tab open. So click on your button, press animation, and we'll call it resize. So this will be on hovering, and we'll have another one in a second for clicking. Click on resize, click add button, hit the plus, and we want this to be a transform. And the transform we'll have is a scale. So design how long you want this to be. I want this to be 0.1, and at 0.1, I'll change these values to 1.2 and 1.2. Now, if we keep going forward and back, we can see this change. Very nice. Again, click on your button, new animation, and this will be the jump animation. So when we click on the button, click your animation, hit the track, and we want, again, transform. But this time, instead of doing a scale, we'll do a translation. And this will be only happening on Y, and we'll go to 0.05. And Y, I'll do like 3. And we can see this happening, little jump. And with that, compile and save. We can close the animation tab, go back in the event graph here, click on animations. We have our resize, which will go here, like so. Then resize goes here again. Just make sure that this is forward and this is reverse. And here again, forward and reverse. We have our jump animation. And then we have our resize animation. By the way, if you want to align something, hold both and press Q. So just like that. Here we go. Compile and save. And just before we finish up here, let's go ahead and create another variable called resolution. Now for the variable type, we'll make it an int point. So this will give us an X and a Y. So perfect for what we need. And let's make it instance editable so that we can set this value dynamically. File and save. Back inside of our settings menu, let's go to the designer, and per button, we want to set the resolution. So this is our 1920 by 1080. So we'll do 1920 by 1080. And this is in our resolution option here. Next button is 1400 by 800. And our last button is going to be 1280 by 720. Just like so, compile and save that. And let's head to the event graph. Next, we want to go ahead and create a function called get current resolution button. Now in here, we want to drag all of the buttons in here. So you can either drag and get also, or simply hold Control. And we have that one already, so let's get rid of it. Now with all of these buttons in place, we can do make array, like so. Add in our pins, select everything, press Q, it will align it for you. Now instead of doing this manually, hold right click, go to align, align left. And there we have it. Next, we'll do promote to variable. It's good to have. We'll call it resolution buttons. And the very next step will be to create a for each loop. So we'll loop over every single button that we have. Now, with that, we can promote it to a, oops, I don't want this variable. Let's promote it to a local variable, local underscore button, just easier for management inside the function. So with that, we want to get game user settings, and we want to compare both of our resolutions. So we have our local button, do get resolution, again referencing to our variable, and we'll do get resolution, get screen resolution. And we'll do an equals equals endpoint, and we compare those two. Then we grab a branch, and if they're the same, well then our button would be on. If they're not, it'll be false. So grab your button and do update button status. So this is true. So, and otherwise it'll be false, just like that. And with that said, let's compile and save. Next, we'll go ahead and create a function called setResolution. In here, we want to drag out and do get game user settings. Next, we want to set the screen resolution. This pin we want to drag to our function there to create an input, and we can set this per button. And again, from get game user settings, we'll do apply resolution settings. And at the end, we can do get current resolution button to update our buttons. So, and at the very end, we can, again, from get game user settings, do save settings. And that's pretty much it. Compile and save. So next, let's close all of these, and inside our event graph, we don't need any of this. Actually, my bad, Control Z. We want the pre-construct. So on pre-construct, we'll do get current resolution button. Now, per button that we click, so unclicked and unclicked, we can set this resolution. So set resolution, break it apart, and set whatever the button is. So 1920 by 1080, Control and C, Control V, paste. Let's just update these. So we'll do 1280 by 720. And we're golden. So let's compile and save and give this a quick test. So just before we go and test this, I noticed one mistake. Let's go back into our button widget. And on the update button status, we want to drag is active and do a set to whatever the button actually is. And just like so, let's compile and save. And let's test it. Once the window is opened, let's keep our fingers crossed that it works. So when we press G, boom, we get 1280 by 720 highlighted. And the reason is because your standalone window is 1280 by 720. So if it's an option, it will glow. Let's test 1400 by 800. That works. And 1920 by 1080. That also works. Great. So this is it for the video. I hope you enjoyed. If you liked it, leave a like. And as always, happy developing.